This is my new project, a Bmw K1100, and we'll build it into a sleeper turbo. So far the engine turned out to be not very healthy, so stripped it all down and did a full rebuild on it with all new parts. Got it up and running and brought it to the dyno and confirmed that it's back to spec. Today it's full steam ahead and we'll not only prep the bike for the turbo, with all the mods that we do, we already gain horsepower and shooting some flames. Yeah buddy, here we go, second episode on this BMW K1100 turbo build. So today we got loads of things to do. We're not only gonna upgrade the power, we also need to make sure that the bike can handle the power, and that's of course safe to ride. So we're gonna do some work on the front of the bike, by work on the brake discs, the brake lines, the ABS, the cooling, the rear suspension, the rear brakes. So we got loads of things to do, but first let's take off the fairings. Took the fairings and some more off, and this is also where all the purest stuff ends and where the fun starts. When putting a turbo on the bike, it also needs to be programmed on the ECU, so it can either be remapped or tuned, flashing like they call it. So that's option one, but it still is and remains a old ECU. This bike is from 1999 and we're living in 2025, so there's a way better option. When you want to go full 2025, this is option 2. So this is a fully programmable engine management system, and it comes with new leads, new coils, a full plug and play wiring loom, a Delta 400S ECU which can be connected up to a computer with this cable right here, air temp sensor, water temp sensor. This package right here deletes the whole Hall sensor, so this right here will go on that instead. So a new sensor right there, this will go on the crank, and a new cover right here. Back in the day with the Luftmeister kits, they had a fifth injector inside the plenum, so that delivered an extra shot of fuel throughout the air intakes inside the cylinders, but I have my doubts about that. I've also came across another option, which is a split secondary controller. Other K turbo builds also use this, and it's basically like a secondary fueling rail on top of the original fuel rail. But I think I've got a better option, which is also plug and play and more like 2025 minded. Right here I've got a fueling rail from a K1200 which fits perfectly on a K1100, and I also bought this right here. So this is a adjustable fuel pressure regulator. So plug and play right there. Right here I got a new set of multi-part fuel injectors which are flow matched and ready to go. These injectors replace the original K-series injectors. Their superfine spray creates a better air-fuel mixture and thus faster and better combustion inside the engine. So we talked about fuel, we also talked about the management. Now we need to talk about the air intakes. That's a no-brainer for me to go directly to Custom Cafe Racer, because I also use them on my K1200 and they not only look sick, they also sound sick. This right here is Custom Cafe Racer's 2.0 version for the K1100s, and I also went for the black filters. You can also go with red if that suits your build better, but the design really looks sick. And it not only looks sick, it also came with 23% better flow. When you put them beside each other, you can really tell the difference. So this looks very sexy. That's enough talking for now. Now it's time to crack on with the bike. So we get the wiring loom off, all the junk needs to go in order to put all the new shiny parts on. And after that we also need to talk about the next upgrade. So let's crack on. junk. Hold it right there, it's first time for a braking update. The ABS module gave an error message like this. This made the brake lever feel very spongy and did not offer much confidence when braking. Overall, the K ABS modules are known to fail, and therefore it was an easy choice to remove the entire ABS system. Got these hell brake lines made to order, so it's a straight plug and play fit on the bike. And within a couple of minutes I could already rebleed the rear brake. Now continue on the front. Up front, the lower brake lines were already replaced by the previous owner, so I finished it off by replacing the upper part. Bye bye ABS. Now we continue on the rattling brake discs. The discs are still in very good shape, so no need to change those. Therefore, I ordered this rebuild kit from K Parts Holland, so it should be pretty straightforward. So took out the clips, well, at least the old one right there. So take them all off and replace them with this. So let's give it a try. I just finished up doing the first brake disc, and I really want to show you guys the difference between them. You can really hear the difference. So this is the rebuild one, so let's give it a shake. So hardly any sound, but still some movement, just like it's supposed to be. And compare that with the one that still needs rebuilding. Let's continue rebuilding this disc and put them back on the bike. Okay, here we go, day 2. So yesterday I got a little bit late, but I finished everything, took all the junk off the bike and cleaned everything up. So now before we put on the engine management system, it's time to talk about the next upgrade. So I'm really a fan of that, it's a really cool upgrade. Ta-da! Here we go, a Spell cooling fan with the stainless steel bracket. Definitely an upgrade compared to the old ones, because these are known to fail. So if we go this route, it's also a no-brainer to up the cooling capacity. So these have an increased flow over the old ones. That's very handy to keep my head cool on the bike. So now it's time to put it on the bike, and then we can finally start by installing the engine management system. Well, that was lots of fun, but the cooling fan is on. Now it's time to crack on with the EMS, and I don't know why, but we'll start with the Hall sensor. The BSK engine management system found its origin in the racing with the K bikes and has some cool features, like a quick shifter already programmed in the ECU. To get that going, it only needs a micro switch on the gear lever and connecting up 2 wires. I see possibilities. The new coil is on, and the leads also found a way to the plugs. I think now it's best to firstly put on the fueling rail and after that the wiring loom will be routed around and then followed up by the air intakes. Well, that's enough failing in one shot. I thought that the K1100 fueling rail clips would also fit on the K1200, but yeah, those are way too small, so that's an easy fix. All other new ones for the K1200 fueling rail, but for the adjustable fuel pressure regulator, I don't know why it doesn't fit. It only goes in until this, but it needs to go further until the clip right there can go behind it. Well, for now, let's continue on the wiring loom. In doubt why the adjustable fuel pressure regulator wouldn't fit in the K1200 rail, I took out the original fuel pressure regulator out of my K1200, and then it became very clear. So, back to original. The K1100 fueling rail is now back on the bike, and I tidied up the wiring around here for the injectors, and also temporarily put the air temp sensor here, so I think I'll move it somewhere. But I also ordered a BSK fuel pressure regulator, which is also suitable for the turbo setup, so that will come shortly. For the time being, the original fuel pressure regulator is back on this place, but it will do just fine for now. As far as the routing goes for the EMS, I initially thought I'd go all the way up until I came around here and slotted in this cover right here, but that wasn't really convenient, and also the wiring would intervene with the seats. After going back and forth a little bit, I ended up putting the ECU underneath the seat, so I think this provides the best protection against the elements, and also easy accessible when you want to plug it up on your computer. So I ended up putting some straps through the seat, so right now it's really sturdy, so it won't go anywhere. I also already connected up the switched 12 volt and the permanent 12 volt to the ECU. What's left to do is connect this plug right here for the cooling fan, the RPM, so the tacho, and the fuel pump. While I'm working on the final wiring, you could do me a huge favor by clicking on the subscribe button, and also let me know in the comment section down below how much horsepower we'll gain by putting on the EMS and all those upgrades. So thanks for that. And just like that, the wiring is done. So like mentioned earlier, it only took 3 wires to connect it up to the K1100 wiring loom, and I routed the wires around here. 1 wire for the fuel relay, the fan relay, and 1 wire for the RPM. So that's all done, but before we connect up the EMS to the laptop, it's time to continue on the back of the bike. Now on to the suspension of the bike. We start at the rear by changing the original strut bar for this adjustable strut bar from BSK. If you're a short guy like me, you can shorten the overall length of the strut bar, which makes the bike sit just a little bit lower, so it's easier to touch the ground. It's also convenient if you want to have a little bit more pressure on the front of the bike, which makes steering just a little bit sharper. So let's put this on and then continue on the front of the bike. The strut bar is now on, and that's for now for the rear suspension. Also thinking about changing the shock absorber, but that will come at a later stage. For now we'll continue on the front of the bike, because we also need to change the fluids on the fork legs. So need to take everything off in order to do that. Ooh, baby. The fork legs are filled back up with oil and also lower the bike 3 centimeters in the front, so a little bit more pressure on the front wheel, so a little bit more racy stance, and yeah, short guy problems. Like mentioned earlier in the video, I wanted to upgrade the rear shock, but that would come at a later stage. But yeah, that later stage just happened right now. I think that's a positive side of my uploads, taking just a little bit longer than I hoped. But let's also unpack this and put it on the bike. Good things come in pairs, they say, so one for the K1100 and one for the R100 build. By also changing the rear shock, almost all the mods are done to prep the bike not only for the turbo, but also for the upcoming dyno sessions. While I ordered this BSK fuel pressure regulator, I also noticed this beautiful billet piece on the website. So this is the cover for the trigger wheel. So instead of this see-through plastic cover, you can get this beautifully black anodized part, so it matches along with their engine. So this really looks awesome. You can also retrofit this on your bike if you already have this on. So it's a plug and play option. The wiring for the EMS is now done, so I finalized everything up around here, so everything is nicely secured, and also fastened the plug for the CAN bus to hook it up on the laptop. So eventually the fairing will go along right here, so it won't be visible. For the ventilation of the engine, I ended up using a R100 ventilation pipe, and I got a plastic T-piece made up. So right now the ventilation from the back of the engine and the ventilation pipe coming from the front of the engine are coming together right here in this pot filter. And now it's finally time to hook up the EMS on the laptop. So it should be just as easy as plugging it in right there, and with this CAN bus connection, hook it up to the laptop. The program is called SX-Tune, and you can also download it if you're interested. You can just check it out, but we can make connection with the ECU there in the top left corner. So now I want to show you some basic stuff which I already figured out. I still got a ton of learning to do. To have the bike run smooth or run at all, the crank sensor needs to be between 0.2 and 0.6 millimeters from the trigger wheel up front. So I checked it all the way around from the trigger wheel, and it should be okay. So right now it says no crank sync. So let's crank it over, and hopefully I got good RPM measurements right here. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it didn't start because I took off the ignition coil and the fuel tank. Before we can start up the bike, hopefully, I still need to do one more test, and that's to check if the throttle positioning sensor is measured correctly. So I needed to do an adjustment on that. So let's check it out, and hopefully after that, fire in the hole. Right here we want to see throttle positionings that is fully capable to go to 100, and ideally we should see around 5 volt measured around here when fully open. So let's check it out. Yeah, that's not too bad, and it also should hold voltage and positioning sensor when we open it up a little bit. Yeah, that seems okay. A full month has passed since the last clip, and that's because I had to wait for a spot to come available on the Dyno, because we needed the time to fine-tune the ECU. But That all happened, so let's roll back the clips and see how it went. Got the results right here with the EMS. So to recap, on the initial video after rebuild, we went to the dyno and we made 85 brake horsepower at the wheel. And now with the mods all done, we ended up right here with 87 brake horsepower. 2 brake horsepower gain compared to our original. So to be honest, I thought that we would make just a little bit more than that, but the EMS will really shine when we put on the turbo on the bike. Then we will have all the information available to go for max performance. I can already see the comment section firing up because the exhaust. Yes, it's still the original K1100 exhaust. Could it be that it's a huge bottleneck to the performance of the engine? So what if we increase just flow a little bit and gain just a little bit more than the 2 horsepower we gained so far? I already got the BSK exhaust that we'll use for the turbo build, but what if I combine that with a 4x1 collector, loose pipes, put it on the bike and go again? Well, let's find out. Back home again, so the fire breather pushed out 88.5 brake horsepower. So much for NA tuning. With this setup, I believe that we pushed out every little bit that was available. Now it's time to work on the turbo. So I joined forces with Custom Cafe Racer, in which he will make a custom bespoke pie cut exhaust for this bike and where we can put on the turbo. After that we go up and design our also custom made intercooler, and after that I'll also join forces with Custom Cafe Racer to develop the intake for this bike. And yes, about the quick shifter, I haven't forgotten about that. As a matter of fact, I got it all figured out. For the switch I used a BMW E36 reversing switch, and I used an injection connector for an easy connection right there. To hook it up to the ECU, 1 wire to the ECU pin 32 if I'm not mistaken, and 1 wire to ground. The theory is all nice, but what about the sound? So that's it for this video. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff, and I'll see you all on the next one. Ciao!